Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me here on the Royal House of Ra. I am your host, Ramesses Khufu El Ra. Today's episode 23. We're going to talk about the last 5 pharaohs of the 20th dynasty. So, this dynasty, as I mentioned, is the last dynasty of the New Kingdom period. And in the New Kingdom period, you had 3 dynasties, and that were the 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties. This was Kemet's empire age, the great age of empire, building, diplomacy, wealth building. This was the zenith of Kemet's power. Now we're going to go into the various pharaohs who ruled into this dynasty, and go into after there was a decline as the 20th dynasty was coming to its close. It went into the period when the 20th dynasty ended with Ramesses XI. Then there was the weakening of the pharaonic power. This was the mark of the decline of Kemet from this point on. So we're going to get on that. We're going to discuss that on this Thursday, March 31st. That will be episode 24. And we will be discussing the third intermediate period, which began between 1069 to 525 BC. And there's numerous of dynasties that was in between that time span. A lot of these dynasties were short. So that show is going to air this Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, before I go further, I like to thank those who supported the show. Please continue to do so. Please subscribe and hit that notification button so you know when new shows appear. Also hit the like button because that helps with the channel here on YouTube. Please hit the like button. Before I go on, I'll give you 3 seconds to do that. That was easy. So let's continue with the show today. We're going to talk about the last 5 pharaohs of this dynasty. Let me just mention the years that they reigned, and then we'll go into the first pharaohs. Now, Ramesses VII, he reigned between 1133 to 1126 BC. Ramesses VIII reigned between 1133 to 1126 BC. Ramesses IX reigned between 1126 to 1108 BC. Ramesses X reigned between 1108 to 1098 BC, and Ramesses XI reigned between 1098 to 1070 BC. So that's the years that these pharaohs had reigned. And what I want to do is discuss the pharaohs Ramesses VII and Ramesses VIII. Not so much is written about these 2 pharaohs, but let's get into it and discuss a little bit that was written about them, and then we'll go into Ramesses IX and Ramesses X, and then we will close with Ramesses the 11th. Ramesses VII succeeded his father, Ramesses VI, in 1133 BC. Little is known of the 7 or so years of his reign. Kemet was economically unstable and prices soared, as evidenced in the records on papyri and ostraka from the workmen's village at Deir el Medina. Everywhere there was unrest. The sites of administration and the capital lay probably in the delta, where almost 100 years earlier Ramesses II had founded several cities. Although Ramesses VII had a tomb in the Valley of the Kings, KV1, it actually lies well away from the main nucleus in the eastern valley beyond the tomb of Ramesses IV. It has apparently been open since antiquity, and the king's body has not been discovered. Ramesses VIII, who probably reigned only for a year, was a son of Ramesses III. That he should have succeeded a son of Ramesses VI is perhaps indicative of a continuing problem of the rightful succession. He has no known tomb or identifiable mummy. Okay, so during this period of the 20th dynasty, there was a chaotic period. The economy was unstable. Prices soared. And I guarantee you there was probably problem with paying workers. And also there seemed to be a succession crisis at the time as well. And it could have been possibly some unrest and possibly some civil wars. But let's go into Ramesses IX and Ramesses X. Okay. With Ramesses IX, Kemet returned to a degree of stability in as much as the king enjoyed a reign of some 18 years. There is not much to show for it in terms of monuments or records, however. Building work in Ramesses' name at the ancient sun center of Heliopolis in the delta indicates the greater emphasis being placed on Lower Kemet. This was probably one of the reasons why the high priests of Amun at Thebes were increasingly able to assert their own power in Upper Kemet and to sow the seeds of the final insurrection to come during the 21st dynasty. Ramesses IX tomb KV6 is a long one in the tradition of the Serge tunnels of the later 19th and 20th dynasties. It lies almost directly opposite that of Ramesses II in the valley, and it may be wondered if the choice of location was influenced by the proximity of the great king, or whether at this time all traces of the entrance had been obscured. The mummy of Ramesses IX was found in the 1881 cache in DB 320, but it was laid in the later coffin of the Princess Neskhans. The reign of Ramesses X has been variously given as ranging from 3 to 9 years. Such is the lack of details available for the period. An inscription from Annaba in Nubia has his cartouche and presumably evidenced some continuing small concern with the area. But the great influence and possessions of Kemet to the northwest into Palestine and Syria were now things of the past. The King's Tomb KV-18 just beyond Seti I has never been properly explored, and no mummy has been attributed to him. So there was some stability during Ramesses the IX reign. There was some stability there. He was able to bring back some type of stability during the chaotic period of the reigns of Ramesses VII and Ramesses VIII. Excuse me. But as I mentioned, there was, at this point on in the last part of the 20th dynasty, the Pharaohs from the 7th to the 11th, there wasn't too much innovation or any of anything going on in that period. So let's get into the let's talk about Ramesses XI. With the long 28-year reign of Ramesses XI, the 20th dynasty comes to a close. At least a little more is known about him than the predecessors. Some ideas of the internal situation of Kemet is given in a papyrus set towards the end of the reign. The tale of Wenamum preserved in Moscow. Wenamum was sent by Ramesses XI to Bopolis to secure cedars of Lebanon for the Barque of Amun at Thebes. In days gone by, he would have been an honored visitor and been given whatever he required for the Kemetan king. Not now only was it so unsafe to travel that he was robbed on his way to Bosporus, but Kemet's stock had fallen so low in the Near East that Wenamum had to pay the princes of Bosporus for the wood, and he had lost the payment in the robbery. It is a tale of that reflects the instability of Kemet. The office of Viceroy of Kush, and hence an interest in Nubia, still existed, since a letter to the Viceroy Panahesi in Turan of year 17 exhorts him to chase up a laggard royal butler who had gone to collect suitable materials for a shrine. Civil war now raged on and off in the Theban region, with the king ruling from the north at his capital Ramesses. The high priest of Amun held the south of the country. Amenhotep, high priest of Amun, appears to have overreached himself. However, since he disappears before year 12 and Panahesi established himself at Thebes, acting for the king, sometime between years 12 and 19, Hethra appeared on the scene as high priest of Amun, having risen through army ranks rather than priestly ones, it seems. By year 19, Panahesi had disappeared. Hithrohar claimed Panahesi's title as Viceroy of Kush and other high-ranking offices, and he appears to have taken over the supreme office of Vizier, leaving him in a position of unassailable power in the south. The major monument confirming the might of Hathor is the temple of Kanus, the moon god, son of Amun, which lies just between the southern tentomous wall of the Karnak complex. Reliefs here depict Hathor at the same scale as the king, although not in the same scenes, and in the forecourt Hathor name and titles appear in the royal cartouche. The implications are obvious. It seems that there might have been as much as a 6-year overlap in the reigns of Ramesses XI and Hathor, each ruling in their own northern and southern domain, respectively, and with Hathor dying before Ramesses XI. The story is not so much one of blatant usurpation as of a tacit recognition by each of the other's sphere of influence. The documents certainly recognize this with dual dating, where year 2 of Hathor is equated with year 25 of Ramesses. Ramesses XI had a tomb excavated in the Valley of the Kings, KV4, just outside the main eastern group, and a little further up a narrow wadi beyond the tomb of Amenhotep III, parents-in-law. Yuya and Tula, although the tomb has been open since antiquity, it was only cleared scientifically in 1980 on behalf of the Brooklyn Museum. A curious story emerged. Apparently, Ramesses XI had not been buried in the tomb, and it was, as usual, unfinished. However, from the many fragments of material relating to earlier royal burials found in the debris, it appears that after the tomb was abandoned, it became a workshop where some of the royal mummies, in process of being transferred to other hidden places, KV35 and DB320, were stripped of any valuables that could be used to bolster the country's failing economy. Even gold leafs was off coffins, such as that of Tutmosis III. Ramesses XI mummy has not been found and may well yet be located in a third cache along with other missing persons. So there you have it. There was a decline there, especially with Ramesses XI. The powers of the high priest began during his reign. It started with Hathor, who reigned 1080 to 1074 BC. And then we're going to go into the various priesthood during that time when we talk about it in episode 24. We'll discuss that, which will be on this Thursday. So once again, thank you for tuning in to the show. Look forward for the show on Thursday, where we talk about episode 24, the beginning of the weakening of the Kemetic powers. Pharaonic power. So thank you once again for tuning into the show. I look forward in hearing and seeing all of you. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. And God bless.